So I'm standing here at Penel Reserve. Over there we have the Buddhist temple. Behind me is the oval shared by St Andrew's Cricket Club and the Berwick Sporting Club. Past that point is the school I work at, and finally we have the clubhouse for the archery club over on the south side. And behind me here is a concrete slab. Now why is that important? It's where I started. Now make no mistake, there is absolutely nothing special about this concrete slab, but this is where the club was when I started. The club's had a long history. It's about 70 years old, used to be down by the Maribyrnong River. It moved here in around 2003, and there was no facilities, no clubhouse, only a small storage shed, and the targets used to be here, as many of my older videos will show. But this was where all the club activities took place, and our coach at the time carried everything in his car and brought everything and set up here. So the question I always get asked is, why did I start archery? And I thought this would be the best place to talk about the origin. Many of us who do archery have some kind of long-standing connection or passion about history or the sport of archery. I had nothing like that. I had no connection to archery as a thing in history. I hated sport, never liked sport when I was a kid. The first time I really came across archery as a thing was playing Age of Empires 2. Massed longbows on Black Forest. But apart from that, that was the only passing interest in archery, apart from a unit in a game and occasionally a class in RPG. I was never really interested in archery, and likewise, never interested in sport. I was one of those book nerds and later computer nerds, spent all the time playing games and reading books, and was never into any kind of activity. I played the occasional bit of indoor soccer with some of my colleagues after I started working, but apart from that, I was never a physically active person. So where does archery come in? Well, about 8 years ago, I went through a fairly unpleasant breakup. One of those soppy breakup stories. But that's basically it. So I was in a fairly good relationship. We were engaged actually, but then we separated. And in the aftermath, you obviously have a lot of spare time, too much time. And I had a lot of things to make up for. So it was 5 years of your life invested in somebody, and then you lose it. You kind of need to fall back on something. For some people, it's having a rebound relationship. For me, it was finding something to do, something more worthwhile for myself. And it was at this time that one of my best friends informed me that there was an archery club right next to my workplace. And I said, well, no there isn't. I would have seen it by now. I've been working for several years. There's no archery club around here. So I checked on Google Maps, and there actually is. This is the club. So we checked it out one day, and the first day we came, it was actually the one day in the year the club was closed, because the coach, who was my coach later on, was running a seminar for instructors at a different place. So the one day that we turned up was the one day which nobody was around. Actually, there was one person here. It was one of the senior club members, one of the last remaining club members. He was a compound shooter, and we were standing in this exact spot. So my best friend and I, we were just hovering around here, wondering what's going on. There's nobody here. There are targets there, but nobody's here. And the member turns up and has a compound bow. And he just got a peep sight sent from the US. I imagine it's probably a Lancaster. And we were curious. We'd never seen a compound bow before. We never held a bow before. And we were just oohing and eyeing about this machine with wheels and stuff. So he was explaining what a compound bow was. And we didn't touch the bow, by the way, but he was demonstrating how it worked. So there's no arrow. He pulled it back, showed the lead off, and then he accidentally let go of the string. And our first experience of archery was watching a guy dry fire his own bow. And the string was okay, the bow was okay, the peak went flying off. We found it, but that was a bit of an unfortunate accident and our first impression of archery. So in the second week we came back and everything was running as normal. The coach turned up with his car and all the bows in the back of his car, and we were set up and we went through our first beginner program. Now, some people describe this as a love at first sight. For me, it wasn't a love, it was a fascination. I think that's kind of how I would best describe my interest and passion in archery. I don't love archery, I'm just very fascinated by it. And I guess for those who understand a bit about I guess autism or Asperger's, you might understand the fixation that people have when they hold things in their hands. For most people doing archery, their first immediate gratification is getting a bullseye or getting an arrow on target. For me, I remember holding the bow and being taught how to hold it, and immediately I was drawn into all the minutiae of archery. The way you grip the bow, the way you have the string on your fingers, the way that you let the string roll off your fingers. All these things were pushing all the right buttons for me. I was getting a lot of satisfaction not from shooting at a target, but from going through the process. And as I came back every week afterwards, I became a lot more fixated on all these small things. And in a very stretched out way, that's kind of what I do on my channel, is to put a lot of attention on the small details, which people find oddly fascinating. But that's how I started doing archery. It wasn't some grand desire to be an Olympian. It wasn't some kind of athletic pursuit. It wasn't a predisposed obsession with history and archery. A lot of these things came later, but the first step for me was really becoming addicted to how to do a good shot, and every part of the physical and mental process clicked with me. The reason why I grew to love the sport is because it's truly an individual sport. I've always been an individualistic person, the lone wolf kind of guy. So team sports never clicked with me. I just didn't like the stress and the peer pressure of playing sport as a team. Even individual sports like tennis or badminton, I would have liked physically, but I would have enjoyed mentally or emotionally, because again, you're facing somebody, and I wanted to have a truly individual pursuit where I could grow and succeed purely on the back of my own effort. And archery was exactly that. Archery has absolutely no involvement from other people. What you do on target is purely you. Doesn't matter what other people do. Even in competition, when you're doing a mass 100-person line or you're doing a one-on-one knockout, it's still just you. And what the other person does has no impact on what you do. And to me, metaphorically, it represented that you have complete control of your fate, that you're not depending on somebody else to do things for you, or you're not hoping for a lucky break. This is purely you, and how good you are or how bad you are is purely based on your skill, your practice, your dedication, and your commitment. And while I might not be successful as an archer, I do recognize and appreciate the commitment required. And that's why I keep on doing it. It's coming back to perfecting yourself as a person, because only with a clear mind and with perfect control can you really do archery the way it was meant to be done. So that's my superhero origin story. People ask me all the time in live streams, and I'm like, look, my best friend just told me to go out. And that's basically it. It wasn't a very inspiring beginning, but why I continue doing archery is perhaps what will resonate more with you. So on that note, why did you start doing archery? This is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.